I'm going to try not to put a map up here. I really don't have any extra room to put any other additional things up here. But Bethany and Bethphage were sister cities that were right next door to each other, and they were both on the Mount of Olives. We covered geography before, didn't we? Okay, and so they came into Bethphage, and then they went into Bethany to get the donkey, and then Jesus and the disciples with the donkeys rode into Jerusalem, which was just right down the street, like a mile away. You could see it from where Bethany was because they were both on top of a hill. Okay, so they go into Jerusalem the first day. He rides in on the donkey, and it was Palm Sunday. They threw their clothes down and garments. He rode in on the donkeys, went into the temple and looked around, and then he left. That was day 1. Day 2, he returned and came back, and which we covered verses 12 down through verse 19, and now we're on day 3, okay? So verse 20, it says, in the morning as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the root. See that there? When did Jesus curse the fig tree? The previous day, right? Jesus cursed the fig tree the previous day because it didn't have any what on it? It didn't have any figs. And then they went into the temple, did their thing, they leave. Now they come back the next morning and the tree is tore up. Mark doesn't give you this detail, but in Matthew 21 it tells us that when Jesus cursed the fig tree, you need to see this. Go to Matthew 21. This is absolutely remarkable, and I was kind of trying to picture myself what I would have thought if I was there to see this. And you actually need to see this. Go to Matthew chapter 21. Okay, I want you to look at verse 18. It says, now in the evening, as he returned into the city, he hungered. We saw that, right? And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it and found nothing thereon. We're in verse 19. But leaves only. We talked about the significance of that last week. And then it says, he said unto it, let no fruit grow on thee henceforward forever. And what? Presently the fig tree withered away. What does that mean? That means immediately, as soon as the words came out of Jesus' mouth, the tree began to wither up and decay instantly. Instantly. So you don't get this if you're reading in Mark. So don't think it took the process of a 24-hour period and then you come back and then finally the tree is withered. No, it started withering immediately as soon as Jesus said it. Imagine standing there with Jesus and he's talking to an inanimate object, a tree, and he says, you shall grow no fruit from this day forward, and immediately the tree and withers up in front of you. What would you be thinking? Whoa! Right? You should be filled with fear and terror and reverence and awe. It should fill you with fear, but also respect and worship for the Lord too, right? It should make you say, woo, I don't want to end up like that tree, right? But imagine the power that will have to come from his lips for him to say the word and the tree immediately respond to his words. The tree was more responsive and obedient to Jesus' words than the religious rulers. That's true. Go back to Mark 11. So the tree wrapped up immediately. That was a wrap for that tree. Now go back to Mark 11. And now we have to deal with what happens, okay? Now look at verse 21. And it says, in Peter, Mark 11:21. Please go back to our home text if you're not there, okay? Mark 11:21. And it says, and Peter, calling to remembrance, saith unto him, Master, behold, the fig tree which you what? Cursed is what? Withered away. So Jesus cursed the fig tree. We learned this last week. The cursing of the fig tree represented the cursing of national Israel. The cursing of the fig tree. Y'all need to get outlines if you came in to be able to keep up with what we have tonight. And it's the same outline from last week if you don't have it, okay? The cursing of the fig tree symbolized the curse that was on national Israel. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Now I need you to see verse 22. Verse 22. Now this is an interesting response to me. The disciples turn and say to Jesus, Lord, look at the tree that you withered. It's that you curse is withered. Now watch what Jesus said. Verse 22, Jesus answering said unto them, have faith in God. But what kind of response is that to what they said? I want you guys to think with me, okay? There's 1,000 things Jesus could have said when they saw that. But Jesus' response to the disciples saying, Lord, the tree that you curse is withered. And he says, have faith in God. That's an interesting response. What can we draw from that? Point 1 on your outline. Let's look at this. I think it'll help. Point 1 on your outline, it says a prerequisite encouragement for a successful and great commission. So I want you to write down 2 things. I'm going to give you a lot of stuff tonight that's not on your outline, okay? But I want us to understand this text. The tree in the text and the mountain that we're getting ready to look at, that Jesus says, in fact, I need to read verse 23. He says, have faith in God. And then he says in the 23rd verse, for verily I say unto you, that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he says. This may sound strange to you, but I want you to write this down. Both the tree, the event with the tree, and Jesus' use of the mountain, both are words of exhortation and encouragement to the disciples for their future mission, which is what we call the Great Gospel Commission. The Great Gospel Commission, okay? Or the Great Commission. What is the Great Commission? Go ye out into all the world and what? Preach the gospel. What is it? Go ye out into all the world and do what? Preach the gospel. You might not see the connection yet between the tree and the mountain, but it has everything to do with preparing the disciples for their mission to go out into all the world and preach the gospel. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. And the tree has everything to do with it because Jesus just performed a what? A miracle. What would the apostles do when they went out to do ministry? They would perform miracles. And multitudes upon thousands of people would be saved through their preaching. Even more per capita than were saved under Jesus' preaching during those 3 years. Did you guys hear what I said? There will be more people saved through the apostles' preaching in their ministry when they go all over the world than those who were saved during the 3 years that Jesus preached. Did you guys know that? Okay, we learned something new today, right? Go to John 14. Let me tell you why I say that. And this is not on outline either. I shouldn't even go here. But I just want you to see it. Because this is a verse that's taken out of context and twisted up and misused too. John 14. Is everybody there? All right. John 14. Watch what Jesus says in verse 11. Okay. John 14:11. Jesus says, believe me that I am in the Father and the Father in me. They're one, aren't they? One in nature, one in purpose. But they're distinct in their persons. And then he says, or else believe me for the very work's sake. Now look at verse 12. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believes on me, and specifically he's talking about the apostles, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father. Everybody see that there? What did Jesus just tell the disciples? I know we're not awake yet. What did Jesus just tell the disciples? Huh? They're going to do greater works than Jesus did. That's what he's saying. Did everybody see that there? But we need to understand what that means. What it means and what it does not mean. What it does not mean is that the disciples would do greater works than Jesus qualitatively or quantitatively. No one ever performed more miracles than Jesus. Moses didn't come close. The disciples didn't come close. When you read through the book of Acts, the apostles never raised anybody that was in the grave 4 days. Only Jesus did that with Lazarus, right? The apostles never walked on water. The apostles never controlled the weather. I can go on and on and on with that, right? So we know it doesn't mean that. Well, what does it mean then that the apostles would perform greater miracles than Jesus? This is what it means. Through the apostles' ministry and through their preaching, more people per capita would be saved through their preaching than during the 3.5 years when Jesus preached. Did everybody get that? Because when Jesus preached in Israel, comparatively speaking, there were only small groups of people, couple believers here, couple believers there. He only had 12 here, and then he had 70. Peter preaches one sermon, 3,000 people get saved. You get it? Preaches another sermon, then it goes up to 5,000 people, right? Right, so that's what this is talking about. And Jesus said this would happen. Look at the end of verse 12, because I go unto my Father. What does that mean? What does that mean? After Jesus' resurrection and ascension, he went to the Father. But why did he go to the Father? What was the purpose? Yes, to send the third person, which would come down and empower the apostles to do that ministry, to do all those wonderful things. So technically, it was really Jesus doing the miracles through the apostles, so they couldn't take the credit for it anyway. That's right. And a worldwide scope. Jesus only did it in Palestine, in a small region of Israel. Apostles went all over the world. Does that make sense? Y'all with me tonight? Okay. Okay, go back to our text. I just wanted y'all to see that. Now, let me tie this up together, okay? Jesus tells, please go back to Mark 11. I want us to get this. They look at the fig tree. They're blown away. Jesus spoke to the fig tree and it withered up. Jesus cursed it. The fig tree responded. That was a miracle, right? And then they say, whoa, master, look at the tree that you cursed. And he says, have faith in God. Okay? And then he says that if you do, that you'll be able to say to this mountain, be cast into the sea, and the mountain shall be cast into the sea, right? What he's doing is he's preparing them for the difficulties of worldwide ministry that they will not be able to overcome in their own power. It would take faith in God in order for them to be able to engage in miraculous ministry by which men and women will be ripped out of the gates of hell, delivered and brought into the kingdom of Jesus Christ. Does that make sense? That's powerful, miraculous work that would take the Spirit of Christ to do that they would not be able to do on their own apart from what? Faith in God. Is it connecting a little bit more? Okay. So I want y'all to see that. So let's keep it going. Letter A on your outline. Faith in God was explained. Everybody see that there? Okay. So the answer there on the 2 lines is was missing. That's what you want to write there. Jesus cursed the fig tree because it didn't have what on it? It didn't have any fruit on it, right? What was the primary fruit that national Israel was missing when Jesus came? Faith. I could even say love, because Jesus often said to the rulers that you have not the love of God in your heart, didn't he? Well, those two fruits are not mutually exclusive. You can't really have one without the other. Okay? Because we love Christ, we trust him. Does that make sense? And if we really trust him, faith works by love. Galatians 5:6, right? Okay, so that should make sense there. So faith in God was what the tree was missing. We're going to delve into this in the scriptures here now. We're going to delve into it. First place I want you to go is John 12. We're going to look at several scriptures here to show Israel Psalm 78. And again, we're contemplating the incredulity of national Israel